Good afternoon, or almost good evening. It's Monday evening. Didn't get a chance today. Been a bit of a busy day. You've had a busy day of schooling, albeit homeschooling. I've had a busy day on calls and didn't really break for lunch particularly. So didn't get a chance to record this at lunchtime. So me and Molly, I've got Molly here today. Molly, wave. Can I show people your hair? You've re-chalked your hair today. She has washed her hair since you last saw her. But we've got green and green bits in it, and you've got sparkly bits on it. If you can see this.
Yeah, that's supposed to be purple.
Up the sparkly bits. Yeah, the sparkly. Is there colour on that side as well?
Yeah, maybe a bit.
Yeah, a little bit. So we've just been for a little quick bike ride, because those people that have watched this for some time know that Molly learnt to ride her bike during half term. So we've been going out on the bike every day, round and round and round the neighbourhood. So we've just been on our evening.
Yeah, and Saturdays, the people
over
around there like play music.
Yes, over on the island they have a Saturday night disco.
And then I try to dance, but
Yeah, but I think that's
Daddy
quite
can even
ambitious
clap on the bike.
Yeah, you were kind of right for a brief moment. I was quite cool to you, wasn't I? Because I was able to kind of like, I wouldn't encourage no children at home. Don't take your hands off the handlebars. It's not big. It's not clever. But yeah, I was clapping and we were dancing on the bikes, weren't we?
I was just trying to go weird. But
Yeah. You were just kind of just doing. So we've just been on bike riding, which was lovely. But it is the Adventures of the Wishing Chair. Oh, we need to cover off the quiz questions. We had quizzes on Saturday and Sunday. And both have been very cleverly answered by the Hardwick family. Well done, the Hardwick family. So Saturday, it was, and I'm deliberately wearing the same fleece again for Saturday. So it was correctly identified as being from the Karate Kid. So I think that says Miyagi-Do Karate. So it was Daniel San. He was trained by Mr. Miyagi. So it was Karate Kid was Saturday's answer, and Sunday's answer. They correctly got the correct number. Should I say it now, just in case people haven't watched it? Should I say?
Yeah,
should I say the number?
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, the number we covered off a book called How Many Legs, and you had to kind of count all of the animals or the number of legs that each of the animals had, and to prove to Sue that she got it right. It says the correct answer is 174, and the Hardwick family correctly said 174. So we've got winners of Saturday and Sunday is the Hardwick family. So there's another tester today, another quiz question at the end. At the end of this video, there will be a little clip of Emily and Molly doing a little dance, and you have got to correctly identify the
song?
The song.
Yeah.
Yes, so don't say it, because you probably can't remember anyway.
I can.
But you've got to identify what the name of the song is, and I'll give you a clue, and your clue is, which I won't repeat at the end, your clue is you'll be in dire straits if you get the answer wrong. That's your clue. Right, okay, enough yakking. Let's read the next chapter, because we're in the final week of not the Enchanted Wood, the Wishing Chair. So we're up to chapter 21, the Enchanter Clip Clap. It must be is it the Enchanter? It says the Enchanter, but yeah,
Yes.
Enchanter. Yes, it is. Right, okay. The Wishing Chair rose high up and flew steadily towards the west. It had a long way to go, so it flew faster than usual, and all its four wings flapped swiftly. I wonder where the Enchanter lives, said Molly. I hope he won't capture us too. Well, all this would never have happened if we hadn't quarrelled with Chinky, said Peter. He wouldn't have gone back home then, and wouldn't have gone out to buy a new handkerchief, and wouldn't have been captured by the yellow bird that swooped down on him and took him away. I shall never quarrel again, said Molly. It made her very sad when she remembered the unkind things she'd said that morning. The chair flew over a wood. Molly leant over the arm of the chair and looked down. Look, Peter, she said. What's that funny thing sticking out of the wood? Peter looked. It's a very, very high stone tower, he said. Isn't it strange? It's just a tower by itself. It doesn't seem to be part of a castle or anything. I say, the chair's flying down to it. Do you suppose that's where the enchanter lives? It must be, said Molly. The children looked eagerly downwards to see what sort of tower this was. It certainly was very queer. It had a pointed roof, but no chimneys at all. The chair circled all around as if it flew downwards, trying to find a window, but there was not a single window to be seen. This really is a very magic sort of tower, said Molly. Not a window anywhere. Well, there must be a door at the bottom to get in by. The chair flew to the ground and stayed there. The children jumped off. They went to the tower and looked for a door. There was not one to be seen. The tower was quite round and very tall indeed, higher than the highest tree, but it had no doors and no windows, so it seemed quite impossible to get into it. Molly and Peter walked around and round a great many times, but no matter how they looked, they could see no way to get in. Do you suppose Chinky's in there? Said Molly at last. Sure to be, said Peter gloomily. We told the chair to take us to where Chinky was, you know. Well, what are we going to do? Asked Molly. Shall we call for Chinky loudly? No, said Peter at once. If you do that, the enchanter will know we're here and may capture us too. Don't do anything like that, Molly. Well, how else are we to tell Chinky we're here? Said Molly. We must do something, Peter. It's no good standing here looking for doors and windows that aren't there. Shh, said Peter suddenly, and he pulled Molly behind a tree. He'd heard a noise. Molly caught hold of the wishing chair and pulled that behind the tree too, and only just in time. There came a loud noise like the clip-clapping of thunder. A great door appeared in the round tower, half as high as the tower itself. It opened, and out came the enchanter Clip-Clap. He was very tall and thin, and he had a long beard that reached to the ground. He wore it in a plait, and it looked very queer. See you finish that spell properly, he called to someone in the tower. Then there came another loud clapping noise, just like a roll and crash of thunder, and the door in the tower closed and vanished. The enchanter strode away through the wood, his head almost as high as the trees. Goodness, said Molly, we only just got behind this tree in time. It's impossible to get into that tower, Peter. We should never know how to make that door appear. What are we to do? Sighed Peter. I hate to think of poor old Chinky a prisoner in there, and all because we quarrelled with him too. Let's hide the chair under a bush and see if we can find anyone living near here, said Molly. We might find someone who could help us. So they carefully hid the chair under a bamboo bush and piled bracken over it too. Then they found a little path and went down it, wondering where it led to. It led to a small and pretty cottage. The name was on the gate, Dimple Cottage. Molly liked the sound of it. She thought they'd be quite safe going in there. They knocked, and to their enormous surprise, the door was opened by a brown mouse. She wore a check apron and cap and large slippers on her feet. The children stared. They could never get used to this sort of thing, although they'd seen many strange sights by now. Good afternoon, said Peter, and then didn't know what else to say. Do you want to see my mistress? Asked the mouse. Well, yes, perhaps it would be a good idea, said Peter. So the mouse asked them in and showed them to a tiny drawing room. What are we going to say? Whispered Peter. But before Molly had time to answer, someone came into the room. It was a small elf with neat silvery wings, silvery golden hair, and a big dimple in her cheek when she smiled. Molly and Peter liked her at once. Good afternoon, she said. What can I do for you? Both talking at once, the two children told her their troubles, how they'd quarrelled with Chinky and how he'd gone home and been caught by the yellow bird belonging to the enchanter Clip-Clap, and how their wishing chair had brought them to the strange tower. But we don't know how to get into it, and we're afraid of being caught by Clip-Clap too, said Peter. I don't know if you can help us. Don't think I can, said the elf, whose name was Dimple. No one else knows a spell powerful enough to get into the enchanter's tower. I've lived here for 300 years, and no one's ever got into that tower except the enchanter and his servants and friends. I wouldn't try if I were you. We must, said Molly. You see, Chinky is our friend, and we must help him. Yes, we have to help our friends, said the elf. Wait a minute. I wonder if my mouse knows anything that might help us. Harriet! Harriet! The little servant mouse came running in. Yes, madam, she said. Harriet, these children want to get into the enchanter's tower, said Dimple. Do you know of any way in? Oh, yes, madam, I do, said Harriet. Oh, you do, cried Molly in delight. Do tell us, Harriet. My auntie lives down in the cellars of the tower, said the little mouse. Sometimes on my afternoon off, I go to see her. And how do you get into the tower? Asked Dimple. Down the mouse hole, of course, said Harriet. There's one on the far side of the tower. I always scamper down there. Oh, said the children in disappointment, looking at the small mouse. We couldn't get down a mouse hole. We're too big. You're a big mouse, but even so, the mouse hole would not take us. Molly was so disappointed that she cried into her handkerchief, and Dimple patted her on the back. Don't do that, she said. I can give you a spell to make you small. Then you can slip down the mouse hole with Harriet and see if you can find Chinky. Oh, thank you, cried the children in delight. That is kind of you. Dimple went to a shelf and took down a box. Out of it she shook 2 pills. They were queer because they were green one side and red the other. Here you are, she said. Eat these and you'll be small enough to go down the hole. They taste horrid, but never mind. The children each chewed up a pill. They certainly had a funny taste, but they were very magic indeed, and no sooner were they eaten than Molly and Peter felt as though they were going down a lift, for they suddenly grew very tiny indeed. They looked up at Dimple, and she seemed enormous to them. Harriet, take off your apron and cap and take these children to your auntie, said Dimple. So Harriet carefully folded up her cap and apron and then went out with the children. She took them to the tower and showed them a small hole under the wall. Down here, she said, and down they all went. Leaving us with chapter 22, The Strange Tower. I suppose what we could always do, we could kind of like on Friday's one, we could have a double chapter, and then we could kind of finish the wishing chair on Friday, couldn't we? That might be an easier thing to do. I'll see how long the chapters are. That might be a more sensible thing to do rather than just then put it over to the Monday. Cool. Thank you very much. Anything else to report? So, don't think so. I think there's so like I say, I'll keep waiting right to the very end because there'll be your quiz question at the end. So it's identify the song from the little clip of film. It's a song from the 80s, I think. Might be early 90s, possibly 80s. Okay, anything else to say, Squirtle Dirtle? No? I think we're going to watch a film tonight. We contemplated Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, but I think I can't say it right. Deathly Hallows, but I think that's probably going to be a weekend film. So we'll find something else. Okay, in which case we will say TTFN, and we'll see you tomorrow. Okay, bye.